If your operation burns 30 minutes a day just to make sure nothing went wrong, that's not discipline. That's a system compensating for itself. Think about how often work stops, not because something failed, but because someone needs to check counts, audits, reconciliations, sign-offs. Those controls feel responsible. They feel necessary. But most of the time, they exist because the work was never designed to be trusted in the first place. Execution isn't about catching mistakes at the end. It's about designing the process so mistakes don't survive the work. When execution works, flow improves and control improves. At the same time, that's not theory, that's design. Welcome back to Because You Only Get Paid When You Ship. I'm Paul Zania, founder of Solve Strategies. Over the last 4 episodes, we've talked about systems, data, quality, and structure. Today, we're talking about the part that determines whether any of that actually matters. Execution. Not motivation, not slogans. Execution as a trainable, repeatable discipline. Most leaders describe execution problems the same way. My team doesn't take initiative. They don't follow through. They're too reactive, but those aren't root causes. Execution usually fails because the system is inconsistent. You see it as a shifting priorities, ambiguous ownership, no shared definition of good, feedback that arrives weeks later, and firefighting that gets rewarded. You cannot expect consistency from an inconsistent system. Execution problems are rarely people problems. They're design problems. I learned this early growing up in a working cattle ranch. You didn't wait to feel motivated. You followed the system. You knew the plan, you knew your role, and you knew what done looked like. Modern workplaces often flip this around. They chase motivation and hope discipline follows. It never does. Discipline creates predictability. Predictability creates confidence. Confidence creates execution. Execution rests on 3 non-negotiables: clarity, visibility, and follow-through. Clarity means people cannot execute what they cannot see. What's the task? Who owns it? What does done mean? When is it due? Visibility means truth must surface early. Dashboards, scorecards, exceptions. If the truth is buried in email, execution dies quietly. Follow-through means you get the behavior you reward. Reward firefighting, you get chaos. Reward discipline, and you get consistency. Execution is a cultural output. When I train teams, I use the same 5 steps everywhere. Step 1, define what good looks like. If the standard isn't clear, performance never will be. Step 2, build micro habits. 1 small behavior at a time so it sticks. Step 3, remove friction. If the system makes success hard, effort won't save you. Step 4, short feedback loops. Daily or per cycle corrections beat monthly reviews every time. Step 5, close the loop. Problems get resolved, communicated, and locked into the system. Now, let me show you what that looks like in practice. In shipping, we already had very few shipping errors. Wrong locations or wrong quantity. Why? Because for years we were stopping shipments to do inventory counts. Counts worked. They caught mistakes, but they came at a cost. Every cycle work stopped. Pulling paused. People counted. Pallets were searched. Loads waited 30 minutes on a good day, sometimes an hour. By 2023, the objective was clear. Eliminate that wasted time without allowing shipping errors to increase. So we move control upstream to pulling. Here's the 5-step system applied. Step 1, define good. Correct locations, correct product, correct quantity. Step 2, micro habits. 3 simple rules. Go to location, look at the product, verify quantity after the pull. Step 3, remove friction with structure. We built a pull sheet database and tracked lines per hour and pulling errors by pull sheet. Step 4, short feedback loops. Brief end of cycle conversations. What happened? What broke? What changes now? Step 5, close the loop. When the team identified improvements, we locked them into the standard. The result? Pulling errors dropped 90% in 3 weeks. And we set a record, 13 consecutive days with 0 pulling errors. Counting stopped being necessary because the system no longer depended on catching mistakes at the end. Execution is predictable. Clarity times discipline times visibility equals execution. If anyone is missing, the result is 0. This isn't theory. It's how real systems behave. One last thought. Even when teams execute well, the system still decides where execution matters most. And in many companies, one area quietly creates more chaos and more opportunity than any other: parcel. In the next episode, we're going to look at how parcel chaos is usually self-inflicted, how a small percentage of behaviors drive most of the cost, and how teams turn parcel from a black box into a competitive advantage. Once you see it, you won't look at shipping the same way again, because you only get paid when you ship. I'm Paul Zania. I'll see you in episode 6.